Going to go ahead and get started here with our monthly service webinar for the District 7 office. Want to welcome those that are attending and those that are viewing online on our YouTube channel. Today, this month is March. We are conducting a service webinar with the Tribal Enrollment Office. We have the director here with us online, Yvette Zotigh, and we are going to go ahead and kick this off, but there's some ground rules with our webinar. All the attendees who are not a panelist will be in the attendee room. And if you have a question, if you pull your mouse down to the bottom of your screen, there is actually a Q&A section. If you have a question throughout the course of this webinar, we have our District 7 office manager online. She's going to pull those questions and make sure that those questions are asked as part of the webinar process. We also are recording this webinar so we can post it on our YouTube channel. That way people can rewatch or share if they want to on social media via our YouTube channel with the link. We also are, the agenda today is, I'm starting that off already. This is the welcome for the webinar for the month of March. I'm going to ask Yvette Zotigh, who is the director of the Tribal Enrollment Department, to introduce herself and give us some background about the work that she's currently doing. And then I'll come back to some questions that I've generated from our legislative team to kind of focus in on. And the reason why we're doing webinars, Yvette, is we're doing Zoom meetings, but it seems like a lot of people were they just had an observation. They said they felt like they got more out of it when I created pinpointed questions on certain areas versus everybody just having a free for all, because it kind of it seemed like sometimes there were questions that weren't really relevant to the topic and people wouldn't want to silence them. So we just wanted to make sure, we had some information that we are sharing about the current services you offer. So welcome to our webinar today, Yvette, and then I'll go ahead and ask you to introduce yourself, give us a little bit of your background, how long you've been in the position, and what are some of the roles and responsibilities of the director of our Tribal Enrollment Department. The floor is yours.
First of all, I want to thank you for the invite. This is great. Communication is key, that's for sure. My name is Yvette Zotigh. I am the daughter of Darlene Hoveka Wolf from the Zotigh family, and Spencer Zotigh with a Z, not a T. Just kidding. It's habit. And I'm from Hobart. I am a full-blood Kiowa. And I have been with the tribe. This past October will be 10 years. Started in HR and then went to Housing Authority, and in September of 2022, on a Friday, I was in housing, and that following Monday, it just happened so fast. I was in enrollment. So I just dove right in and wanted to make sure that I understood the role and responsibility I had in enrollment. So started out and just started going with trying to learn everything on the aspect of the job. It's been good. And I tell you, it's forced me to really, really dig deep to learn and teach myself on what enrollment was for. Enrollment's been around since 1800s. The process might have changed. The title names might have changed, but the concept hasn't. The integrity and the accuracy of actual tribal members and their blood quantum, which was required by the United States Interior, it was always there. It's always been there. And of course, the BIA did that. They collected those names for the distribution of the annuity payment. I know I'm giving a little bit of backstory, and I won't go into great detail about it, but I just wanted to make sure that there is a real goal, a real reason why every tribe needs an enrollment department, not just for funding. I mean, we're talking about history, the enrichment of tradition and culture, but also the base role, how we started, where it all began, and why. And we all know about the allotted lands and the allotee annuity payments that were distributed. Somebody had to keep track of that. So early 1970s, the Kiowa Tribe took over their own enrollment. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Yvette, for that introduction. My first question is going to be as a role of as the enrollment officer for the Kiowa Tribe. What are some of your roles and responsibilities overseeing that department and those processes?
Well, again, the integrity and the accuracy of the enrollment number is vital for funding sources, for just I say a hub of the tribe in its administration and operations. We play a big role in why we're here, how we're here. I do the tracking, I guess would probably be the better word, of everybody who once was enrolled to current enrollment and who needs to be enrolled. So my job is to verify their eligibility for that required blood quantum. That's probably the main purpose of enrollment is tracking the numbers, but also checking, verifying qualifications.
Thank you for that. And I'm going to ask you a little bit more of it's kind of a traditional question. So I just wanted your opinion. I guess, how do you balance your own Kiowa values with our modern administrative practices in your role as the enrollment director? Because you're a full-blood Kiowa, which is rare, right? And so I guess you know a lot about our tribal values. And I think, how do you balance those with our modern administrative practices in your role?
Let's see.
We can come back to that.
Let me tell you this.
Okay, yeah.
You made a good point, because there are currently right now only 525 true full-blood Kiowas. I take pride in that, like all the other 500 plus do. Now, we all know there's all types of tribal members that focus or participate in different activities, whether it be powwow, hand games, song and dance, traditional, the Native American church, all that. Well, my family, the reason we left Rainy Mountain area, Zotigh is where my folks are from. They went to Hobart because of the missionaries that came, was introducing the Jesus Road Christianity to the Kiowas. My grandparents were a big part and really, really wanted to learn the Christianity that was being taught. So that's how we winded up in Hobart, because of the First American Baptist Church. So I grew up more so in the church aspect and the community, small town Hobart, small town where most Kiowas live. But we didn't start powwowing until much later. I will say this, though, as far as like daily activity, it's kind of hard to answer that, but I can tell you solely underneath it all, I'm Kiowa, and I care. I care about our future. I care about the history, the preservation of everything. So it allows me to be more engaged, to take my responsibilities more serious, because this is me. This is who I am. This is family. We're all related in one way or another, so to speak. But as far as your question, I think that's the best way I can answer it. My heart is really in it. I'm fully invested.
I think you bring up a good point. Our tribal enrollment policies often, I think, they intersect with sensitive cultural and family issues sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I guess as a leader, can you provide, I guess, our audience here, maybe there's a difficult situation that comes to mind where you had to ensure that you're being fair and adhering to tribal enrollment policy. Could you give us, don't go into any names, I'm not saying any information.
Oh, no, I won't. But
Yeah.
quite often, Quite often I get calls from, I don't know where I come from. I don't know my family's name. I don't know. I just think I might be Kiowa. Um, Instead of telling them the burden of proof is on them, I really want to try to help them, guide them in finding the resources I use that are certainly available for everybody. And I can share those later if you'd like. But the second part of that, not only those that are not enrolled that want to be enrolled, verifying and making sure that they are eligible for enrollment. I also get those that have somehow or another their blood quantum needs to be verified. I cannot and will not go in and just change somebody's blood quantum just because they say there's a technical, some sort of discrepancy or anything. I have to verify that before I change anybody's blood quantum. That right there is probably one of the hardest, having to tell them, no, I'm sorry, your blood quantum is right where it needs to be, or sorry, it's, or good news, I found the discrepancy because, there can be those, not many, but there can be those. We're human.
Yep. Thank
That's
you for
hard.
that. So can you tell us, I guess, can you elaborate on the department's approach to ensuring confidentiality and security when handling our tribal membership data? What program do you use and to ensure that it's confidential and secure?
Well, I feel like the software that we use is really good. It is not a cloud based. It is not something that can be accessed just anywhere. You have to be here on the server on the complex grounds. We just gained the capability because it's so strict. So it's so confined here in the complex. We just now, here very recently, now have the capabilities of taking Progeny software out on the road. Of course, we try to be in closed area when we talk in regards to contact information and social security, birth dates, and all that. We try to be in a closed area. But as far as like the strict policy of not sharing any confidential information, we do not do that. Now, the history of the allottees, I feel like that's public information. Any number that you want, how many females, males, how many quarter Kiowas, how many 18 to 61-year-olds, all of those, anybody at any time can call. I can give out numbers galore, but I will not and cannot. I'm bound by the oath that I took that I will not share confidential information. It's hard because I'm going to use an example. Being with all that said, we do want to get with the modern technology, making things more accessible. For an example, you can get a birth certificate online now. So those measures we do try. We wanted to make it an electronic submittal for address changes. A picture ID has to be sent with those for us to change it. That is the only technology right now that is an electronic submittal that we provide or have here in the tribe. But we do the tribal ID requests online to make it more convenient for those who are not in driving distance. We require a consent form that has to be provided first with an additional state ID, passport, whatever ID they have, so that we can make sure that they are who they say they are. And so we do have those measures in place.
How do our citizens access that? Is it through the tribal website? Is there a link or they download the form
the
on there?
social sites of Facebook or anything, strictly just to the
Website?
tribe website.
Okay. And at the end, I'll come back to that and I'll kind of show them where to go and access that as part of the webinar. So we can kind of show them, what we're looking for. So thank you for that. we'll jump down to like policy questions. And, I think everybody wants to know, like, how do we, implement or revise our blood quantum? Our blood quantum is stated in our Constitution. So would you elaborate, the process, our blood quantum is because we haven't amended our Constitution, and that is on the KIC to do, right?
Yeah, it are. In fact, I'll share this that I've learned, and it was kind of surprising that the Kiowas are only one of 3 tribes in the state of Oklahoma that have the highest blood quantum requirement. It has not changed. There's been many, many attempts, and I'm sure maybe down the road it's going to happen. But for right now, you have to be a quarter Kiowa, and until the Constitution changed, the policy process will not change here in enrollment.
I think that's exactly right. So we'd have to have an amendment that's gone through the KIC process,
Yep.
which my understanding is very, very hard to do. But as a legislator, they said, well, can't y'all change it? And I said, we could, but the problem is it'd still have to go to a vote of the people, and they would have to agree and vote with the what they felt on the actual blood quantum piece. And like it's very, very, what I proposed was we need to have a convention to kind of come up with some data so people can make an informed decision, because people don't know what this means for the tribe 100 years down the road. What is our numbers going to look like? So I think that all needs to be explained to them. So thank you for commenting on that process. And it does have to go through the KIC and can't be changed legislatively.
Of course, we're going to stay neutral here in enrollment. We are.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to, because you're that's not your call. You just implement the policy that's voted on by the people.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
So community engagement. So what's tribal enrollment doing to ensure that it's outreaching to our citizens, and how would you continue to engage with our citizens to ensure that they're connected with the enrollment process?
Sure. Well, that was one of the things that I wanted to implement when I very first came on board, knowing that in my own personal, when I was younger, it was hard to get to Carnegie, and it was kind of far away, and, gas money and drive and transportation and all of that. It's real. And I want to make it as easy and obtainable as possible, to be as accommodating to all tribal members as possible. And that's why we do go out into the district offices to make the driving distance a little bit shorter. We go into the district offices hoping to provide the tribal IDs is mostly the main. It does help with the confidentiality. It does help with their driving distance and makes it more accommodating. And I know I'm repeating myself, but that was the main mission, was to be as accommodating as we can. And then that's when I implemented the electronic requests and providing pictures. And if you want me to elaborate on that, I can. But again, that just all falls under wanting to be accessible, wanting to be accessible.
Would you mind elaborating on that at this time while we got the question up there?
Sure. Well, there's several things we can do. We do have forms. We have request forms for if we just want a simple replacement or a family tree or anything of that nature. That's just a simple request form that we get with the picture ID that's provided by the tribal member. But we have a new tribal ID packet. Okay. Within that packet is the consent form that I referenced earlier, that we have to have that first with a tribal or any picture ID, state ID. In that tribal ID packet are the informations that we would ask, requests here in the office, such as height, weight, blood quantum. You think about it in regards to being like a driver's license. Something's disappeared. Can you still hear me, legislator? Okay.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm just pulling up our enrollment, just for the citizens. They have an enrollment events coming up.
What we try to do is obtain all the information that we would had you be here in the office. on the tribal ID packet, though, specifically, I wanted to make sure that there was guidance on whether we're using an iPhone or an Android. But then also, when I was bringing up, when you go into a motor vehicle to ask for a driver's license, they're very strict on what the picture looks like. Well, we do the same thing here in the enrollment office, meaning we will not accept a picture with anybody, a selfie, baseball caps, eyeglasses, in anything, doorknobs in the back, creases, windows, people, any object in the background. We want to make it look as a federal professional ID as we can. Within those accommodations, we still have to use our best judgment and try to get as close as we can to a federal ID. So those on the tribal ID packet, and we'll tell you what we allow and what won't allow.
Yvette, while we're on this topic here, I'd just like to walk them through the website. Maybe you can talk about some of the things that they can access on the website. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm just going to show them where to access the packet while we're on that subject of the ID. Okay.
The other forms are there too. I think when you pull it up, they'll be able to see the Eagle permits and the request for information I spoke about.
Yeah, absolutely. It's here. So if you go to kiowatribe.org, go to the departments, and you'll see enrollment. You'll scroll down. You'll see they have an event coming up at the District 6 office in Hobart to let your relatives know. But if you go all the way down under documents, you see the online tribal ID packet. You just click on that link here, and it should bring you up to the actual PDF of the file that they'll need. And it's got a step-by-step of how you do everything here. So I just wanted to kind of make sure that our citizens know that that service is available. And then if you go back here to, now I got to pull this down here.
Well, while you're searching for that, I also want to add that we realize that not everybody has access to a printer. Not everybody has access to an internet. What we also can do is if any tribal member wants to go into their closest district office, we can work that way as well. We're certain that the office manager can help take copies of the photo ID, and the office manager, they themselves can check their tribal ID to make sure that they are who they say they are. So we can correspond with the office managers if there's any that can't print off and scan and email and all of that.
Sure. And so you see here, you have also, a change of address form. If you go here to the bottom here, and then change of name. So what is the difference between a change of address and change of name? Like, I guess the change of name is you get married or you get divorced. Yes. You're filling out a form to change their name.
And once upon a time, you had to have either the marriage license or the divorce decree. Mm-hmm. I want to add that I will accept a state ID or passport that already has their married name or their maiden name. We'll accept the ID itself to change it. You don't have to have the court document.
So if you go here to like name change request, you can kind of see all the, you can fill it out here, download the PDF. Do they email this form back to you?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Along with it, you already said it several times, but I'll go ahead and reiterate. A valid driver's license, state issued ID card, along with the marriage license, divorce decree to reflect the name change, or a court order that needs to be sent along with the packet, right? Okay.
Or their tribal ID.
Yeah.
Also, we'll accept that.
Okay. Request for information. What is that form used for?
Well, that is truly that I always say this, we would love back in the day, you could call enrollment and get changes, whatever's needed or whatever you're requesting sent to you. We're in a different day and time. I do require those requests for information forms because it protects enrollment office and the tribe. So gone are the days of just picking up your phone and with the expectation that enrollment is going to make those types of requests without the supporting document. But we do try to make it as easy as possible. And I do want to say again, you're more than welcome to call the enrollment department. You have it pulled up. We'll walk you through it. We'll try to, make it as easy as possible as far as what we need. But if you see the check marks there, there's differences between a tribal ID, a CDIB. We do provide, some tribes won't, but Kiowas, we provide copies of Social Security cards and birth certificates. Again, we're here to help. We are here to help. So you'll see the family tree. This form right here just tells us what you're wanting from our office.
Okay, thank you. And then I'm going to go back, and then of course the membership application. If you have a tribal member that is not a member that wants to apply, they just need to access the application down here. Anything else I need to drill down on the website for our members here?
Just keep in mind, remember that on the membership application, it does have to be the original birth certificate. You do get them back. We certify return receipt every original birth certificate. We just have to be able to feel that seal to make sure that it is an original. We make our copies and then we send it back.
So just to reiterate, so the applicants needed an original state certified birth certificate, no exceptions. Applicants also need a copy of their Social Security card.
Yes.
Any other legal documentation if deemed necessary, and then the actual completed membership application, which they can access on the website. Okay.
And let me add that if you don't have an original birth certificate, we also provide the court document. Say, for example, guardianship or anything like that. We'll accept the court document in place of the original birth certificate.
Okay. I'm going to stop sharing now. Thank you. And go back to my questions here. So thank you for answering those questions and kind of going through the services that you provide. I guess in your experience as the director of enrollment, have we been, have you been overseeing enrollment audits and ensuring compliance with any tribal requirements on the accuracy of our reports?
Well, are you asking me if any auditing?
I think just in your role as an incoming director, which was just a couple of years ago. I mean, you've done your own internal audits to ensure that our reports are accurate. Is kind of the tenor of the question. I just want to ensure that those audits are getting done within the tribe itself.
Tomato, tomato. You say audits, I say files maintenance. We have literally pulled every file folder and make sure that every piece of document that needs to be in there is in there, making sure that it's where it needs to be. Everything is in its place. So we did do that, and then we entered some additional information. By pulling that has allowed us to enter in the data of membership, the day they were enrolled. That's vital. The day maybe their parents, it wasn't in the progeny system. So it's kind of a check and balance thing, where we can go into progeny while we have the folder and make sure that all the information is not only in progeny, but also in their folder.
I think that's an excellent, question. If discrepancies or challenges arise in verifying documentation, how does the department handle that situation?
Could you give me an example of
say for example, maybe maybe this person's enrolled, but maybe they're not, maybe their parent didn't, maybe they were adopted, and the actual parent's name was incorrect in their file. How would you handle that situation, respecting our own tribal policy, but also our traditions?
We can tell if it's an amended birth certificate. Okay, amended means that there's probably some type of guardianship or adoption. Okay. So we'll make sure that we have that original birth certificate. I'm going to assume, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the previous administrations all before me, they made sure that the tribal members were who they say they are, their parents are who they are, but we just kind of just check. We just want to make sure. It's just a kind of a double check and make sure it's done and move on to the next one. But yes, we look for those types of information. The integrity and the accuracy. Is this parent actually the biological parent of? I'll give you another good example is sometimes like relinquishments, when a tribal member wants to go to another tribe, the forms may be in there, but it wasn't all the way information. And I got to be careful what I say about discrepancies, because I know that brings up a lot of questions on whether or not the integrity, the actual number of tribal enrollments that are used to apply for funding sources. That's not what I'm referencing. I'm referenced just in terms of the hard copies and versus what's in the progeny, because the progeny will filter anything that you need. So again, I'm not referencing when grants management or anybody needs to obtain funding sources. I'm talking just in regards of the simplicities of the hard copy that we have in the files here, and finding the deceased, for example, finding, just if there's missing information.
I think that's an excellent point, and I think we have a lot of citizens that have complained on social media. Well, I've gotten voting records, and there's people that are listed on there who are deceased. Would you mind elaborating on, the tribe needs an official document in order to mark them as deceased and take them off active membership rolls? What is that process?
Like any active administration, you always need supporting documents. I was once trained by a supervisor who used to tell me, now, Yvette, form follows function. If you remember that, you're going to always make sure that you're almost pretty on target of doing what you're supposed to be doing as far as tracking, making sure that the integrity is there. So as far as you asked, and let's use the example as deceased, okay? Enrollment doesn't know if we're not contacted, and I get it. Family's not going to think, oh, I better call enrollment and let them know. The election office, let them know. They're thinking in terms of the burial, what social services can provide to them. So what we have done is we have a great connection, communication by email, whether it be from the funeral home or the Social Services Bureau program. They contact us and let us know on the deceased. What process was done before us, I can't really speak to it. I could just tell you what the legislators, the executives now, the administration here in the enrollment office, we try very hard to keep the integrity and the accuracy. So when we find those things out, it could be just a simple obituary in a newspaper, just something in writing that says that they are deceased. A lot of times we get provided way after the fact. We'll get a death certificate in anything that we can put in the folder to make sure. And then we don't take them off the roll. We don't just eliminate it, poof, they're gone. We don't disenroll. All we do is we change their enrollment status to deceased. That way they're not counted in the living enrollment count, I guess, if you will.
Okay. Now, if a person, yeah, that answers that question. I appreciate that. That really clears it up. We have a large amount that have been deceased, so they come off the active roll.
Can I add something also?
Absolutely, go ahead.
In developing that chain of communication, starting from the burial program or the funeral home or family. Sometimes families will call us and let us know. What happens when enrollment gets it? We took the initiative to try to be the hub of here in the complex, I guess I should say, because it's unfortunate our softwares don't speak to each other. If you change an address in enrollment, it's not going to change election office software. It's not going to update address, contact information, anything over there, marital status. So what we do is when and I'm just using as an example, when the burial assistant program director specialist, they'll contact us, or the funeral home does, sometimes both. We ourselves, we let finance know. We let election office know that there's changes in an tribal member's enrollment status. We've gotten really good, way better, the consistency of making sure that we're sending that information out. That's why you see sometimes the request for updates for addresses. You'll see a mass report put out somewhere, either social media or whatever. We do still have a lot of tribal members that don't even have an address in there. Why that happened, I'm not sure. It doesn't affect their enrollment status. It's just a contact information. I doubt enrollment is ever going to call anybody for any specific need, but it's good to have. And it's something that we relay over to the other departments that need it, election and finance.
Okay. So you mentioned something earlier, and I just wanted to, what if a person disenrolls? Is he just marked inactive?
No, we don't just disenroll.
I mean, not disenroll, but say they change their enrollment to another tribe. What happens to that person?
Oh yeah, that's called a relinquishment. The Kiowa Tribe has a conditional relinquishment. Now, I said the Kiowa Tribe because every tribe, the concept is the same, but sometimes processes are the same. Okay, their guidance is different. Ours, and I can't really speak to theirs. I said that to say this: the Kiowa Tribe has what we call a conditional relinquishment. Conditional. What does that mean? That means that when a tribal member wants to go to a different tribe, okay, they apply for membership from that tribe for whatever reason, and we've gotten several different ones, but for whatever reason, that tribe does not take the Kiowa tribal member who's requested the relinquishment, they don't enroll them. Once we get that denial that they are not on there, because our Constitution will not allow dual enrollments. Osage tribe, I'm going to use them as an example. They do allow dual enrollments. So I said that because all Constitution, that's our roadmap. Unless that changes, nothing's going to change as far as, the way we handle enrollment is what I'm getting at. But once we get that denial, then we reinstate. The conditional means that I give them back their enrollment number that they had. They don't have to fill out an application. They don't have the burden of proof on who they are or whatever. It's just conditional. We bring them back on board, but we have to have the supporting document before we do that. Okay,
Yeah, that answers my question. I appreciate that.
Sure.
So one service I know y'all are offering to citizens is doing a genealogy tree. Is that correct?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit more about how citizens might go about doing that?
Sure. This is one of my favorite topics, let me tell you. I have never, not even my own, I have never tried to create or find or build my own family tree. It took being in enrollment, in fact, to make me want to learn about more things, the history, as I mentioned when we first started this webinar, also the family trees. Okay, so I've learned that there's several different resources out there that will allow us to help. Okay, and I'm sharing this part because if anybody wants to do it, they themselves, they can do this. I use the same tools. I don't have any tools or resources that nobody else has access to. Okay, let me just say it probably better like that. But I can sometimes go back 8 generations, sometimes, not all the time. But I will say this, a lot of us are so blessed to have family that shares oral history, that shares who we come from, our ancestry. some of us are so blessed to have family that shared all of that with us. So we know who we are. We know what families we come from. We know who's related to who. But there's some families that don't have that. They don't know, and they want to know. So the family tree is something that I found that I really enjoy doing, because I don't just put names on there, by the way. If I can't verify it, I will not add it to their family tree. And I'm not the say-all. If I send out a family tree and there's any type of discrepancies, please, by all means, please let me know. I will make those corrections in the Progeny software here in enrollment, because I want to know. I want to know, because somebody else in your family or generations later, they're going to want to know who their family is. They're going to want to know where they come from, who their people are, who their folks are, so to speak. And so we can provide that. So I love that. I love helping.
Okay. Just going over to like future planning in the short term. I know we have an upcoming budget election coming up, and I know there are currently 3 staff members. I think yourself, a clerk, and then an administrative assistant. I think for future planning, what do you see as the office needs in terms of like genealogy for the future?
Okay. I want to back up and say that I realize that enrollment has never had more than 1 or 2 office personnel in it. My intention was to make sure that business was taken care of, business as usual, and most importantly, the tribal members as they come in. If we're distracted by files maintenance or creating a tree, because that can be intense sometimes, causing great focus, I just wanted to make sure that everybody was taken care of, needs are being met. But again, my priority was to make sure that every folder was touched. We were maintaining the accuracy and the integrity of each folder. So I felt like we needed another staff member. Okay. So we have going out into the district offices, somebody here, an enrollment clerk that does the screening. There's just different dynamics that happen in enrollment that we just need to be available. So 3 people has allowed that better service. Administrative assistant is the position that I requested to create. That administrative assistant has 2 sole main responsibilities. She goes out, Pam Pula, she goes out into the district offices and helps provide those needs for tribal members who can't travel this far. And then the enrollment clerk kind of monitors the traffic coming in, I guess, so to speak. The membership application, they screen those and make sure that what needs to be in the application is there. So we have different jobs that are being met at the same time. One of the most important jobs that I feel is important next to the files maintenance is our allotments, our allottees, our original base role. I used to think that there was 3,387, but I've since learned that there's many, many more. There's many more. I cannot find them if I'm the only person in this department. I can't. So I said that because that's why I requested to have 3 staff members in the department, so that all the roles and responsibilities are being met. Now that our files maintenance is pretty close to perfect, there's no reason it can't be perfect, but I feel like now we can now turn our attention to the allottees, our base role, entering into progeny, making sure it's preserved, maybe possibly turning the administrative assistant into a genealogist specialist. Okay. My vision, my dream is that we could collaborate with the language department and find out the English translations. When they were issuing the annuity payments and allotments back then, they couldn't say our names. That's why you hear the terms agency name. I used to always wonder why my mother said that. but now I know. They couldn't say our names. So they gave us this regular Tom and Mary and all these types of names, and we were identified by that. We were recorded as that by our agency name. Well, that is why all of us, our last names come from that original allotee. That was their only name. They didn't have first, last, middle names. That was their name. And so I think it's important that we capture that and preserve it. You can get this information from the BIA, by the way. Tribal government, Mr. Lonnie Mahula, that is my go-to when I get stuck on relationships, verifications on who's related to who, blood quantum issues. He's my go-to, okay? But as far as the allotee goes, I do have 6 tribes within the allotee book that I have right behind me. I have these books that help me not with just the enrollment, enrollment verifications, but also the blood quantum verifications, family trees. These are really important books to have, and I think it's important to put it into the Progeny software. We can utilize this software to the fullest capacity, which has not been done. And it's just important that we're capturing that. And then, so like I said, back to my vision, I would love, love, love to be able to collaborate with the language department and translate those Kiowa names. I think that'd be great to have. So I hope that explained.
No, that answers my question for long term. Long term, what's your what's your dream for the enrollment department? Do you have any dreams or aspirations you'd like to share with the community?
Well, I know I just kind of touched on it, but again, the family trees, and I won't go into it because that can be a whole other session. I love sharing what I learned. I'm gonna be honest, I really didn't have an interest to learn how this all began, how the tribal government, why they started the blood quantum requirement, the Medicine Lodge Treaty. It's forced me to learn about the Medicine Lodge Treaty, the treaty promises, how all of that back then affects today. That is why, again, I say enrollment plays a huge role in the tribe itself, the governing aspects of it. So it's important. It's really important to make sure that we have the most up-to-date, accurate information. And again, we need everybody's help as far as giving us that updated information, But as far as like history and the allottees and all that, my dream is that anybody at any time can walk in here. Because by the way, we allow anybody to come in and look at these allottee books, take pictures of them. Now, I don't allow anybody to scan it. I got to say this. I don't allow anybody to scan it because those pages are getting pretty brittle and frail. And so we wear gloves, we have sheet protectors, we do all that we can to reserve that actual allottee book that has just the Kiowa tribal allottees in there. Remember, I know I said that I have books that have the 6 tribes in it, the Kiowa, Comanche, Apaches, Wichita, Delawares, okay? I think I said Caddo, but I have those. So that helps me also in creating family trees. I don't always just put just Kiowas on there. If I have access to the original allottees for the other tribes, that documentation is in there. But back when the tribe took over their own enrollment, they created their own allottee books from the original, the very first Kiowa chairman and that business committee. Those are the books I'm referencing that the pages are getting brittle and so I will not allow anybody to scan those, but take pictures. I'm just fearful running it through the copier and taking it out of the pages. And so the books that I'm referencing on all 6 of them, those are recent, up to date. I requested those when I got here because I saw the original Lati books when I came into the office. I had no training. I had nobody here to say, okay, Yvette, you do this, you do that. At the start of each day, you do, I just had to just dive right in. And so I came across these books from dusting, believe it or not. I was dusting and I was sorting and trying to organize. And I came across these books, the original Lati, that I didn't know what they were for. I did not know what to do with them or how they played such a vital role in our tribe in the preservation of the history of knowing who we come from. So as you see, I know I'm probably going way off in the deep end, but I love. I'm not a history buff by any means. I don't think I did that well in school with history and science, but I tell you, I love it now. I'm really learning on who had come from, the different chiefs that we had, the history of the massacres, that happened in the early 1900s. I mean, just there's so much information that tribes, I encourage them to try to learn, pass this information on to the next generation and the next generation. They're probably not going to remember every single thing you say, but they will remember that, oh yeah, my mom, my dad, my folks, my grandma, I remember them saying something about that. That's how I found myself doing. Like, I remember my mom saying that. And to actually be able to unfold and read and learn about it, it's exciting stuff to me. To me, it is. So my vision for the department is to be able to provide that information. I don't think it's ever been accessible to anybody before. So again, that's my vision for this department, is to create a genealogist department, even if that means that, because I'm limited with the budget, the salary, that the KIC approves, which, by the way, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. It makes the job so much more effective. But I'm willing to make the administrative assistant turn that into a genealogist specialist. Now, whether we're going to need it, the main mission is to capture the allottees and the families based on the United States Census, and again, the resources. And I can go into that on another day if ever you want me to, as far as like trying to learn how to create your own family tree. Okay, that's probably should be a whole nother session. But again, my dream is to be able to make this information as accurate and available to all tribal member citizens as possible. And walk in and I can give it to you.
Okay. Well, we got about 8 minutes left in our webinar here today. I'll open up for some questions here in a second, but before I do that, I do want to share this flyer here. Let me know if can you see that, Yvette?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so enrollment will be visiting our Norman office, the outreach office in Norman. That's at 123 24th Avenue Northwest in Norman. And the phone number is 405-857-8408. But the date of that visit will be on May 1st, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And then also they'll be doing a visitation up to the Tulsa office on the 2nd of May, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And our address for our District 7 Legislative Office is 15 East 16th Street. We're right behind a restaurant called Bill and Ruth's here in Tulsa. And if you need the phone number, it's 539-525-0437, and our email's down there at the bottom. Just wanted to share that information. Anybody in those locations that need an ID card or need to talk to enrollment, they will be doing that visitation, which we're appreciative of, that they're doing that outreach and engaging our tribal members in those communities.
And legislator, if I could add that we are so open and willing to be at the district meetings. We're so open to coming to any type of event. In other words, my little saying when I was talking to the chairman, like, wherever the Kiowas are in mass gathering, wherever the Kiowas are, that's where I want to be. I want to be able to provide that. So if that requires working a weekend, we're willing to do that. We are more than willing to do that.
Thank you, Yvette, for that. I appreciate it. Do we have any questions from any of the attendees? Just reaching out to them if they have anything. I haven't seen anything in the chat box. I think Tara's still on board. I haven't seen any other questions. If there are no other questions at this moment, we'll just give them a minute. But I appreciate you making the time to come on board and visit with us about different things going on and involving enrollment. We have our KIC meeting coming up. It's always, if we need to address our a declining enrollment trend, we need to change the blood quantum, but that's not on you. That's collectively that the people need to make a decision on which way to go. And that's a much larger process. And I think people often think, well, enrollment's preventing me from enrolling. No, it's just you're doing your job in accordance with the Constitution, going by that 1/4 blood. It kind of inhibits people from enrolling. And
can I also add that
absolutely.
whenever they did do that voting, we get a lot of calls that say, hey, they voted on it and they voted yes to lower or, to address the blood quantum. That's not what happened. I think it's real important if the tribal members could educate themselves on the difference between a voting on the executive offices or legislative office or the budgets versus an amendment to the Constitution. That's two different processes. That this requirement over here for the amendment is a lot more detailed and a lot of things that have to be perfectly in place because this is our Constitution, like the United States of the Constitution. This is our Constitution for the Kiowa Tribe. It's not easy just to say, well, I think today we should. No, it's quite lengthy as far as the election process goes. How many ballots get sent out? How many have to be returned? Gosh, like I said, we could just go on and on and on when it comes to enrollment. And I too had to educate myself by asking the questions.
Sure, absolutely. Well, hearing no other questions, I appreciate your time today, Yvette. Thank you for taking your lunch break to kind of explain this to us all. And it's been really a good conversation today. We're going to post this to our YouTube page, but we appreciate you. Go ahead.
Sure. And let me remind everybody, we all have new phone lines. We all have new phone numbers. I, in fact, do not even have my own direct line memorized yet. So I said that to say this. Anybody at any time is more than welcome to call and ask for numbers, deceased, anything that is not confidential or contact information, numbers, we can give that out. Please call us. We're here to help.
Oh, what's the line they call if they want to get started? Not yours, but the departments.
No, yeah, they're calling it a pilot. I got to get my little trusty note here. They're calling it a pilot, meaning that when you call this number right here, it's going to ring on all three phones because we're so dedicated to make sure that if we miss a phone call, we're going to call them back. If you leave a voicemail, we're going to get back to you. So here is the line that you'll call directly to us is 405-901-9239. 405-901-9239.
Okay. Well, thank you, Yvette. And then the email is still enroll@kiowatribe.org.
Yes. Enroll. Kiowa Tribe.
Enrollment@kiowatribe.org. So send them an email too. All right. Well, you have a great day, and we appreciate it, Yvette. Hopefully, y'all are not blowing away in this wind in Carnegie. So,
okay.
All right. We'll see you next time.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.